Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something pretty transformative in manufacturing, digital twins.
Right.
And maybe forget the sci-fi image of, robot doubles. This is about virtual copies of actual processes.
Exactly. Think of it as creating a really detailed virtual replica of a manufacturing process. And it's got two main jobs, really.
Okay,
First, helping figure out the best way to run the process optimization. And second, making it way easier to fix things when they go wrong troubleshooting.
got it. So it's like a virtual window into the real thing.
That's a good way to put it. It shows you things you just can't see by looking at the physical machines alone.
And that's what we're digging into today, how this tech is shaking up process development. We're especially keen on the pharmaceutical side of things.
Yeah, that's a really interesting area for this.
We've got a mix of sources, some general intros, but also some pretty specific stuff from journals like Organic Process Research and Development. And honestly, even in the technical bits, there are some real aha moments.
Oh, definitely. What's really striking is how digital twins changed the whole approach. Instead of just relying on physical trial and error, which, takes ages and costs a lot.
Right, like a lab work,
Well,
pilot
no,
runs.
exactly. Now you can build this virtual world first and simulate the entire production line.
Okay, let's unpack that. Simulating before you actually build anything physical.
Yeah.
So imagine you're setting up a new line for, I don't know, a new drug. Normally you build it, run tests, hit some snags.
Yeah.
That's expected, right?
Pretty much standard procedure, but with the digital twin, you first build that virtual model of the whole line. Then you can stress test it.
How so?
Well, you can play around with all sorts of parameters virtually, like what's the absolute optimal temperature inside this reactor, or what's the perfect mixing speed for these ingredients.
Ah, okay. Things that are critical for, say, crystallization in making medicines.
Precisely. You can tweak these things in the simulation, change the temperature, adjust the flow rate, modify the mixing, and see the predicted outcome immediately.
Without actually using any raw materials or time on the real equipment.
That's the beauty of it. You get to see how changing one little thing might affect everything else down the line, virtually.
Which must massively cut down the risk when you finally do go to full production scale-up.
Huge difference. Because scale up, as a lot of our sources highlight, that's a massive hurdle in pharma. Making something work in a lab flask versus a giant industrial tank, it's often not straightforward.
Right, things don't always scale linearly.
Not at all. So this virtual testing de-risks that transition significantly.
And thinking about our listeners trying to get up to speed efficiently, this simulation approach, it offers a clearer path to understanding complex processes, doesn't it?
I think so. Instead of drowning in data from endless physical tests, you can visualize the whole thing, see the connections. It's more intuitive.
Focused learning, maybe. Less noise.
Yeah, less noise, better signal. And ultimately, think about the impact: potentially lower costs, getting crucial medicines out faster, refining things virtually helps efficiency in the real world.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, something else that kept popping up was predictive maintenance. Sounds a bit futuristic.
It does sound a bit like Minority Report for machines, maybe, but it's very real. The idea is that these digital twins aren't just static blueprints. They can be connected to the actual physical equipment using sensors. So the twin is constantly getting live data feeds about how the real machinery is performing.
Ah, so it's not just a plan. It's like a live virtual mirror of the factory floor.
Exactly that, a dynamic reflection. And then, by combining that live data with historical performance information.
Past breakdowns, maintenance logs, that kind of thing.
Right. The digital twin uses analytics, often AI or machine learning, to spot patterns and predict when a piece of equipment might be heading towards a failure.
Whoa! So, hang on. Instead of waiting for, say, a critical pump on the line to just stop.
Which could shut down the whole line.
Right. The twin sees warning signs in the sensor data before it happens.
That's the goal, proactive maintenance. And this is incredibly valuable, especially in pharma, where consistency and quality are non-negotiable. FDA regulations and all that.
Yeah, unexpected downtime, there isn't just lost production. It could compromise a whole batch of medicine.
It absolutely could. Big financial hit, potential safety concerns.
Okay, walk me through an example. Make it concrete.
Sure. Think about continuous manufacturing. That's a big trend. Lots of talk about it in places like OPR&D. You have a line running constantly.
Right, not batch by batch.
Exactly. And on that line, you've got, let's say, pumps moving fluids around, critical components.
Okay.
The digital twin linked to sensors on a specific pump monitors its vibration levels, maybe its temperature, its energy use, the flow rate it's delivering.
All sorts of operational data.
Yeah. Now, if the data starts showing a subtle drift, maybe tiny increases in vibration over time, or slightly higher energy use for the same output, things a human might not even notice day to day.
The Quinn flags it.
The twins' algorithms flag it as a potential precursor to failure. It alerts the maintenance team before the pump actually breaks down.
So no sudden shutdown, no potentially ruined product batch. They can schedule maintenance during a planned stop.
Exactly. Minimal disruption, consistent production, better quality control. It's a huge operational advantage.
You mentioned Organic Process Research and Development, OPR&D again. It sounds like that journal is a gold mine for seeing this stuff in action in pharma labs and plants.
It really is. You find loads of case studies where companies describe how they solved specific development problems. Now, they might not always explicitly label it digital twin, especially in older
There's the
papers.
terminology evolves.
Yeah, but the core idea, using advanced modeling and simulation to optimize processes, that's been building for years, and it's all over OPR&D.
So they were kind of building the foundations for what we now call digital twins.
Absolutely. You might see, for instance, a paper detailing how they used, say, computational fluid dynamics, CFD.
Okay, fancy simulation software.
Right, to model exactly how reactants are mixing inside a vessel. They'd simulate different mixer blade designs or speeds to see how it impacts the drug yield or purity,
Doing it on the computer first.
doing on the computer first to find the best conditions before they even run a physical experiment. Saves a ton of lab work.
Makes sense. Trial and error, but virtual.
Pretty much. And think about another tricky area, solid forms of drugs. Getting the right crystal structure, ensuring it's stable, that's crucial.
Polymorphism, right, where the same drug can crystallize in different ways.
Exactly. And those different forms, polymorphs, can have really different properties. Solubility, stability, how easily they process into tablets. It's a big deal.
So how can a digital twin help there?
Well, you can use it to model the crystallization process itself. Simulate how factors like temperature changes or the type of solvent used might influence which polymorph forms.
So you could predict if you're likely to get the stable, desirable form under certain conditions.
That's the idea. Predict and control it. You can simulate different scenarios to find the processing window that consistently gives you the polymorph you want and avoids the problematic ones.
Okay, virtually designing the crystallization to avoid downstream surprises.
Precisely. And this ties directly into continuous crystallization too, another hot topic in OPR&D. Imagine a system where the drug crystallizes as it flows continuously.
More complex to control, I bet.
Definitely. So a digital twin could simulate that flow, the temperature profile along the way, how adding seed crystals affects growth, all to optimize the final crystal size and shape and prevent things like secondary nucleation.
Where unwanted tiny crystals suddenly appear and mess things up.
Exactly. It allows for much finer control over these really quite complex continuous processes.
It really sounds like these twins are becoming indispensable for process chemists and engineers.
They really are. And it all feeds into this bigger philosophy in pharma called quality by design, or QBD.
Right, we've talked about QBD before. Building quality in from the start.
Yes. And digital twins are a perfect tool for QBD. They let you define the design space virtually.
The safe operating window for the process.
Exactly. You can simulate how critical process parameters like that temperature or mixing speed affect the critical quality attributes of the drug, like its purity or dissolution rate, all done virtually before making large batches.
So you understand the process deeply and build in robustness from day one, virtually.
That's the power of it. Proactive quality assurance, driven by simulation.
Okay, so that covers optimization and prediction. What about when things just go wrong? Despite all the planning, sometimes a batch doesn't meet spec or there's an unexpected issue on the line. Can the twin help then?
Oh, absolutely. That's the troubleshooting angle, and it's incredibly valuable. When something unexpected happens in the real world.
Instead of scratching your head and running frantic tests.
Right. Instead of just guessing possible causes and launching maybe weeks of physical investigation, you can use the digital twin as a diagnostic tool.
How does that work?
You take the data from the real-world problem, say, a batch of tablets isn't dissolving correctly.
Which affects how the drug works in the body, right?
Absolutely. So you feed the problematic data into the twin. Then you can rapidly test hypotheses. Maybe you simulate changing the binder amount in the granulation step that happened earlier, Or maybe you simulate a slight temperature fluctuation during drying.
And see if the virtual simulation replicates the real-world bad result.
Exactly. If tweaking a specific parameter in the twin makes the virtual tablet show the same poor dissolution, you've likely found your root cause. Or at least narrowed it down significantly.
Wow, that sounds way faster than trying those changes one by one on the actual production line.
Orders of magnitude faster, potentially.
Yeah.
It's like having that virtual sandbox, as you said. Test fixes without stopping production or wasting materials. Find the problem, implement the fix, much quicker resolution.
Okay, so wrapping this up a bit. The big advantages seem to be better optimization through virtual testing, proactive troubleshooting when things go sideways, and this predictive capability for maintenance. Is that a fair summary?
I think that nails it. Enhanced optimization, smarter troubleshooting, and predictive power. It's a toolkit for understanding these complex manufacturing systems much more deeply and efficiently.
Leading to better quality, less risk, more efficiency, especially in critical areas like pharma.
Definitely. It's a powerful shortcut to process understanding and improvement.
Which brings us to a final thought for everyone listening. As manufacturing gets even more complex, think about making biologics, these huge protein drugs, or nanomedicines with tiny engineered particles.
Yeah, the complexity is only increasing.
How sophisticated will digital twins need to become to keep up? And what totally new insights might these even more advanced virtual replicas unlock for developing the next wave of treatments? Something to chew on.
A very interesting question for the future.
Indeed. Thanks for diving deep with us today.